I'm welcome in Haggai Davis for a cup of tech gumbo. What's happening, dude?
I'm excited, Brian. Going to be hunkered down for a really rainy weekend.
It is. It's going to be nasty this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good excuse to watch a lot of football, though.
Exactly.
Yeah. We're going to have a whole lot going on 104.5 ESPN, all four of the divisional round games. All right. We got a lot to cover here in the tech world. We're going to get to electronic vehicles in a minute because I'm seeing more and more charging stations popping up around town. And I think I've got a different angle on it now. But anyway, I want to start with a story that I talked about with Patrick Grimmy on yesterday, a story I sent to you earlier in the week. A woman has been ordered to repay her employer $2,756 after computer software tracked her productivity. I want to talk about this from the tech end. How prevalent is it right now?
How prevalent? I really don't know exactly. So being in the IT industry, I've actually had two different companies come give presentations on us trying, to whether or not we were going to use their software.
Can y'all do that over it?
We have the ability to offer. We have companies who've put the software in front of us and said, hey, look, if you have a client who is looking to have productivity tracking software, we do that. And it was interesting to look at and listen to the presentation, all of the different things that it covers. Mm-hmm. Whether it's this thing can track the computer name and status, whether you're logged in, you're logged out, what the total amount of active time you're active on the computer, mm-hmm. what apps you're using, the websites you visited, the files you've accessed, what pictures are on your screens, the keystrokes, all of those types of things are trackable.
Okay.
And it's to what granular level do you want to go with it?
So you can get as granular as possible, though, right?
Oh, absolutely.
All right. So the technology is there. Is it affordable?
Yes.
Okay. All right. The technology is there. It is affordable. And you and I were talking or texting back and forth earlier in the week about this. My early assumption was if a company's looking into this, this is going to be a really big company that can stroke this check and not have that level of, what's the word I'm looking for here? Familiarity within the office. Like, I would make the assumption that this would be a big company who can look at things as just numbers on a P&L report and not the people involved. But that apparently isn't always the case.
No, this is something that if you're even a small business, if you're interested, if you really want to know, it's scalable to where if it can be done.
Right. So even, a 5-man operation, sure. if the one person who's in charge of those 5 people says, I don't really trust you.
It's a per seat license thing. And mm-hmm. yes, it is something you can definitely do all the way down to that level of business.
So y'all have talked about this technology on Tech Gumbo before as well.
We have.
And with that, have we seen other examples where I don't think we've seen an example of an employee being told that she has to pay back close to $3,000 or $2,700.
That I've not seen that either. That was the first time to see where somebody actually got burned that like right. to that degree.
Mm-hmm. Now, another thing you were telling me was all this can be done without the employee having the slightest idea.
And that's where, we spent 20 minutes on the show that's airing this weekend talking about this, mm-hmm. where we went into pros and cons and the whole thing. One of the cons is it legal? Because state by state, the laws vary.
Okay.
As to whether or not, you have to know if you're being recorded. And this certainly falls underneath that category. And, certainly that's a better question for Franz about whether or not it is legal, those types of things. I'll
probably bring that back up with him next week. Sure.
But it is something that has to be addressed. Is that if we're going to do this, we're going to roll this out in whatever state you're in, and it says you have to let your employees know. If you don't let your employees know that we're recording this, that's when you get in trouble. But if you sign this piece of paper, you acknowledge we have productivity tracking software on this computer. We know everything you're doing. Mm-hmm. Okay, then now everything's good to go because you've told the employee you're doing it.
Yeah. Well, okay, so how much of that can be, and you know, we're a good 3 years since the beginning of the pandemic, so a good 3 years since the beginning of the big movement to work from home, which actually started before the pandemic but grew. So how much of this would be folded into your hiring paperwork when you first get started? Because that day where you're signing 100 different NDAs and non-competes and sign here for the health insurance and here for that and blah, 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 how much of that can be folded into that to where you sign your name to get the job and you completely forget about it moving forward?
Well, you signed it.
Yeah.
If you put your name, your signature to that piece of paper that said, I acknowledge that tracking software is on my computer, and 2 years later you forgot that they're doing that, and you get a call from HR because you were going to websites that you weren't supposed to be going to, or you're putting down in that you did 50 hours of work, but the tracking software shows where you did 10.
Right.
You're going to be in trouble.
So, and this is the part of this is like the fraud. There is actual fraud here. Woman says she was working. Right. Software says otherwise, and that's legit. But what I'm curious about is the bottom line, and I don't know how much ROI you could figure out on this. Like, I don't know from a business standpoint, not so much technology standpoint, but from the business standpoint, is this $2,700, was it worth it to this company versus the loss of trust with other employees, the looking for other jobs, like everything else that goes into this? From a tech end, have we seen, or from the other stories that are like this, have we seen fallout where, I mean, we're talking about the Great Resignation recently. People are going after new jobs. There's new jobs available and not enough people to have them. Unemployment is down. All these things, with all these things mixed in, have we seen other similar stories where a boss does this, fires somebody, and then everybody else is like, whoa, 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 you're not doing that to me, partner?
Well, part of it is the privacy thing. And it's one thing when, hey, this is my boss is tracking everything I'm doing.
Right.
When, oh, by the way, Google, Facebook, and everybody else is already doing that, and we have no problem with them tracking. And
yeah, but I don't have a relationship with Mark Zuckerberg.
You think you don't?
No, I don't have a personal relationship with Mark Zuckerberg. He doesn't tell me hi in the hallway every morning.
No, but the ads he pushes onto your computer does have more to know about you than you think it does.
Has a whole lot of gaps in perception right there. No, you're 100% right, but the view of it from the employee standpoint is going to be completely different.
I mean, your employer signs your paycheck every 2 weeks.
Exactly.
As opposed to Google knowing exactly what ads to put in front of you.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a quick break right here. When we come back, we're going to continue. I got one or two more questions about this particular story, and then we're going to move on to talk EV sales in just a little bit. Right now, though, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to check your money now. We're going to check traffic. Coming back with a cup of tech gumbo next on Talk 107.3. Yeah, the last question I have on this is about how can the employer, and this is going to vary state by state, can the employer say you're fired? Why? Because if you're at an at-will work state, the employer could say, I don't have to tell you anything. But if you're somewhere else, you have to be able to show cause, and then because I've been tracking you and you've been defrauding us. I don't know why I picked that up like as a prop. Byron says, also, if you use your phone on the company Wi-Fi, user beware as well. Their routers can track things too.
Bingo.
Which is why I love working here, because the only websites I go to that would be questionable in the workplace are DraftKings and FanDuel. And both of those are sponsors of our station 104.5. So that's easily explained. And I don't have to lie about it either. If my boss says, hey, what are you doing? I'll say, hey, I'm putting my money down on auto locks, man. My guy had 5 NFL games last week, or 5 different NFL games last weekend that hit. We're pretty sure.
I was I was looking for a bottle of wine yesterday for a friend, and I pulled up on my phone the Total Wine app. I was sitting at my desk though at the office. It wouldn't let because I was on the network Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
It wouldn't let me do a search to see if they had that bottle of wine.
Interesting.
Because that was something
Which,
they do block.
To me, feels like if you're the business, that's the right way to go. If you don't want people on a certain website at your business place, don't let them on that website.
Right.
Don't let them go to the website and then come back later and say, got you.
Yeah, can't you block websites?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. You can block all kinds of things.
I told my sister, I was like, put our shit up on Facebook while you're at school. Like, just, you don't even have to watch or listen. Like, just have it up. And she was like, they don't let me get, like, on Facebook.
Yeah.
Like, the Wi-Fi doesn't let her get on it.
Oh, there's a story we're going to talk about next week. I don't know if you saw, Auburn has now blocked TikTok from their campus Wi-Fi network.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. I would use that to negatively recruit Auburn.
And 18 other universities around the country have as well. But Auburn's the biggest because the state of Alabama has said no TikTok on any state phones or
Right.
and or state networks. Well, the University of Alabama is a state university,
but that's for employees who have an employee cell phone, right?
No, but if they're saying no TikTok on state networks as well.
Well, then okay.
And so
I turn off my Wi-Fi from time to time. Like, so if I'm over by Our Lady of Mercy and I want to hop on, like, if I want to see how my bets are doing, I can't hop on DraftKings while on the school Wi-Fi doesn't allow it.
Right.
Which is awesome. Good.
Yeah.
I don't want questionable websites at all.
You don't want the fifth graders in there making bets for the game that night.
Exactly. I turn off, or you don't want to place bets on the fifth grade game. Kids are out here to have a good time. You try having a good time when you lose $1,200. Anyway, just kidding.
It was only 1,000.
Just make the damn 3, Lucy. It is.
Better than a Karen.
Right. But you just turn your Wi-Fi off and go back to your regular cell service, and you're good to go.
That's what I did.
Yeah.
When I was sitting in my, all right, fine. I just went to cellular only, and I found my answer. And okay, now back to the Wi-Fi. But yes, you can. This stuff, this tracking software, can track everything. But in somebody like me, who I have to leave the office a lot to go visit with clients, well, it's not tracking anything I'm doing when I'm
not there.
Right. Or not on my computer even. And okay, so then how much is it really doing?
Yeah.
So, if you're somebody who's at the desk 8 to 5 or working, even if you're working remote at the house, because that was part of the problem. I got that CPA gassed is she was a remote worker. Mm-hmm. She wasn't in the office. So they were wanting to track the remote workers. And they could see that she was not living up to what she was saying she was doing because there were concerns.
Right.
And I mean, she was getting canned, and this was, hey, her final paycheck. Oh, you owe us money, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Byron.
653 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Cup of Tech Gumbo rolling right along. Still at 45 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. ABC News coming your way about 6.5 minutes from right now, which gives us enough time to squeeze in one more question about the tracking software and then move on to talk EVs for just a minute. Haggai, I got to ask about this. When we dove in a minute ago, or right before the break, about how this can go on without the employee's knowledge. depending on what state you're in, you can be fired without knowing this was why you were fired.
The at-will state thing, sure.
Yeah. Like if you're an employer, and I'd be curious, this gets away from the tech end into a personal end, but I'd be curious as to what employer would fire somebody and then just not tell them, here's why. You've been lying about how much you've been working. Because if you're the employer, are you showing your cards at that point? Because you've got all these other employees that are being tracked in the meanwhile. So you tell this one employee on her, and I say her because this was the case, but you tell that one employee on her way out, this is why you got gone, and that employee goes back and tells every other employee, and then now you're in the scenario where the mistrust is there.
If that employer is smart, there's other KPIs that they can pull up and say,
yeah,
here's why you're gone.
Yeah. From an emotional standpoint, thinking about the smaller company, the personally run company, the emotional standpoint, because when you're an entrepreneur and you grow into hiring employees, that level of trust you have to transfer over to your new employees because this has been your baby for so long. And then when somebody violates that trust, violates your baby, then the anger would overwhelm the logic.
Having been a small business owner before, you're going to have had those conversations a lot when somebody's not performing up to what you need them to do. When there's 3, 5, 7 people in the entire business and somebody's not pulling their weight, you know it, they know it, and it's because you've talked about it.
I got a question about this that might have a flaw in the system, though. And I know we were going to move on to EVs, but this one last question. Hypothetical situation, working with the software that tracks, right? Let's say I'm not on my work computer. I'm at home on my own computer. And I've got to draft, I don't know, something that has a script that's about 5-6 pages long, a sales pitch or something, okay? And I type out the whole thing from home. And then I email it to myself. When I get into work the next day and log onto my work computer, I copy, I paste. Did I just do 5 pages worth of work or 4 clicks?
4 clicks?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you didn't grab that from Google somewhere. So, ChatGPT created it for you.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
Exactly. All right, let's move on. Global EV sales hit a new milestone heading into this year. That is, China's kind of leading the way on this. Tesla's in the mix as well. And the U.S. crosses the electric car tipping point for mass adoption. Let's talk about this. I'm seeing more and more charging stations around town.
So this goes back to the Biden administration and the big tax bill that they put out or the infrastructure bill, rather, I should say. You invest your money to build charging stations, and then the government will reimburse you for them. Mm-hmm. And so that's what you're seeing all over town. Companies are putting up their own money. Mm-hmm. They're putting up the charging stations right there on Airline in front of the Albertsons near...
Yeah, Airline, the Hammond Shopping Center.
Hammond Shopping Center. There's 10, 12 of the charging stations for Tesla right there. Mm-hmm. And that was private money that put it up, and they're getting reimbursed by the federal government, which is, if instead of just the federal government throwing money out there, please, here's somebody, go do it, you got to put your money into the game. I like that approach. If you're going to have the federal government get involved, fine, you put up your money first, and then we'll reimburse you. It's a better way.
That would be nice.
It's a better way of going about it.
Yeah. So as I'm seeing the charging stations going up, it's changing my take on where EVs are going. Because we've been in the loop where we're an oil and gas place, especially here in Louisiana, right? That's our bread and butter.
Sure.
An oil and gas car is what we know. A gas-driven car is what we know. How do you cross that hump into the EV space? And the answer is as simple as physically seeing it in front of you.
There's so much involved in the whole EV versus oil and gas. When you consider there's 40, maybe 45 years worth of oil left to be pulled out of the ground, we're going to run out of oil if we don't make some changes soon. The problem is, if we tried to go tomorrow to everybody just driving EVs instead of gasoline cars, one, we don't have the batteries to have all the cars. We don't have enough power in the grid to charge all of the batteries.
Well, and that which is powering the grid is still oftentimes run by traditional fossil fuels as well.
And that's the last part of it.
I mean,
You're
I'm
trading.
not pumping gas. Somebody else is to pay for my electricity.
You're
to fuel my electricity.
That's right.
It's a transfer.
You've shifted where the pollutants are coming from, and so until we get to a point where there is more of that clean energy, whether it's nuclear, solar, wind, hydro, whatever, fusion, those types of things.
We got less than a minute to go. We'll continue the conversation because I got a couple more points. We'll continue the conversation over on the Talk 1073 Facebook Live page. If you're listening on air and want to hear the conclusion, the exciting conclusion, go over to Talk 1073's Facebook Live page. In the meanwhile, what else is coming up on your show this weekend?
Oh, we're going to talk greater detail about the employee productivity tracking, the EVs versus all kinds of things. It's going to be a great show, though.
Detecting productivity killers. You're gonna dive into that as well. He's Haggai Davis. It's a cup of tech gumbo. We do it every Friday right here in the 6 o'clock hour. Haggai, I appreciate you, brother.
Always.
Coming up on Heads Up 7 o'clock at Talk 1073 FM. Here's ABC News. Okay. This is going to be offensive too. The EV stations, the charging stations that we're seeing around, and EVs that are out there, can the government get into influencer marketing?
Meaning how much you charge?
Meaning giving tax rebates to hot chicks to buy EVs. Because just like ladies' night, ladies drink free, right? As a dude, are you more likely to buy? Not you and I. We're happily married guys for a long time, right? Not together, but he's got a wife, I've got a wife. So, but like think back to when totally. So, well, I've been accused of having a kid with somebody before. Anyway, not really. It was hilarious. But think back to the days of going out to bars. You'd have ladies' night, right? Why do ladies drink free? Because if the ladies are drinking free, that's where the guys are going. Can the Biden administration? That was on purpose. Can the Biden administration say, you know what? If all the hot chicks start buying EVs, all the dudes are going to follow suit?
Oh, I doubt it. It would be hard to...
Don't kill my fantasy land here.
How do you sit there and say, okay, look, Tesla, we'll give you a 10% rebate for selling the Model 3 to the hot chicks?
I mean, swipe right on the EV. That's the tagline.
I'm going to say no.
Okay.
I'm just because I'm going to go down the safe path here.
Sure, why not?
Because, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, Brian.
I understand that. Totally understand that. Oh, the follow-up to the story about another woman saying I had a accidentally, this was totally not what she was trying to get at. It was actually Paula Davis. So she's like, we're in the middle of a conversation. And she
also
says,
not to be confused with my wife.
Your wife, Paula Davis. In the middle of a conversation, she says, just a couple weeks ago when we were dropping our daughter off at Auburn. And I'm like, not our daughter. She's like, oh my gosh. Yeah, totally didn't even think of it in those terms. So I saw the productivity killers. Do y'all have like the top 10 list or something?
We went into the what they were we definitely did talk about it.
Okay.
Social media, the where was it? Messaging boards, doing just coffee breaks and smoke breaks and chit chatting, using the messaging system to talk about last night's football game as opposed to this client file that needs to be dealt with. Those are trackable things.
Nothing unlike, sharing TikToks and Reels and whatnot.
That's part of, killers.
Yeah. Ted Lasso clips.
all of that.
I might be revealing what my own time killers are. Ted Lasso clips is big. Sopranos clips, huge.
At some point, I'm going to have to get Apple TV.
And get Ted Lasso? Dude. Okay, no, wait, hang on. You got to do on Silicon Valley first. It's so up your alley.
You have to watch Veep before you do all that.
He works in tech.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I've watched Veep.
Wait, weather.
How's the weekend stacking up? Here is WBRZ meteorologist Marissa Nuzzo.
Veep is freaking hilarious. Like, I think one of my favorite shows ever.
My wife loves Veep. I thought it was okay.
I love it.
I've a very different sense of humor for things like that. Some shows just don't. Like The Office, is the dullest show on earth to me.
The Office is kind of funny to me, but like I just can't watch it because I get like it makes me cringe. Like I get like secondhand embarrassment from it.
There's nothing funny about The Office to me. It's just,
Veep is hilarious.
Are we doing this show next week since you're in?
No, let's tell you that. No, I'll be up there.
So
Unless you're going to be in D.C.
Me? No.
Yeah.
Wish I was.
Yeah.
I'll be here. All right, good. We'll take the week off.
Yep. Appreciate you, man. Later, brother.